Okay, so I'm really happy to be able to finally release the Fraktor sequencer. It's taken quite a while to actually get this one finished off for one reason or another. But I'm pretty happy in how we turned out, and it goes quite deep into how far we can get with making variations and giving individual notes and probability and velocity to the sequencer at the step level, at the subdivision level, and also at the sequencer level. So to start off with, let's just look at the basic idea. Okay, anyone who knows what step sequencers are can probably recognize here we've got 8 steps, and then if we set the transport to play, okay, this one is on at the moment, so here we have 1 hit playing for every step. Okay, I wanted to look at the global parameters for that first, and then we'll get onto the sequencer and the steps, and then go deeper onto the subdivisions. So first of all, we've got swing here. That's just going to affect everything coming out of it, and this is familiar to anybody who's used the groove pool in Ableton. So here we can set it to be either 8th notes or 16th notes, and we can set the amount. So at the moment it's a perfectly straight note, so each the time between each hit is exactly the same. And then of course if we bring it up, we can see that each second note we're introducing a delay into that. So it's usually nice to give a little bit of swing. Here we have the speed, so we could have it at something pretty fast. It probably shouldn't go this fast, to be honest. I don't even know if that will work. Okay. Right, so 8 notes is great. Here we have the number of steps, so we can make it longer. We can have 16 steps maximum, or we can bring it down to like 2 steps. Here, this is the note pitch for the whole sequence. And one thing I wanted to do here when I set this up, because to begin with, I started off at the level of one particular step, and here we can set the pitch for each specific step. Then for this one, I wanted the ability to change them all, but we can see that it's actually not changing until I press this. Right, that just makes sure that if we've got a lot of different notes here and we mess around with this by accident, we're not going to lose all of that data, because it's just going to overwrite everything here. So yeah, here now I give it a note that doesn't have any hits on it, right? And now back to the original. So at the top here we have the tab, which we can go through the different settings and configuring what's going on with our sequencer. We'll look at these in more detail soon. To begin with, we'll look at the first tab here. So this one is for the number of subdivisions, and also we can set the velocity, right? So here we can set the specific velocity for each different step, right? Now if I hold shift down and I click and drag up and down, then we can change the number of divisions for that step. So now we can hear, obviously we're getting more notes per step. And I really wanted to make sure in this sequencer that we got like a lot of control. Like I've seen this done before with the subdivisions, but I think in the example that I looked at, that you couldn't change the velocity. It was just fixed, and also like the note was fixed for each note, for each subdivision. And I wanted to get deeper than that for this one. So we can change the velocity, we can change the number of subdivisions, and also if we hold control, we can drag up and down here, and that will give us a variation in the velocity, the same way that we could put a variation into the piano roll, right? That just helps us to get a bit more of a live sound, something a little bit different, not quite so robotic. Okay, so if we change the number of subdivisions, right, we can go 1, we can go to 0, of course, right? Probably we don't want to have a hit on every single step, right? So, okay, we can have 1, we can have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then we have 8, 12, and 16. And again, we can play around with the velocity. Now, if I go up one more with the number of subdivisions, we instead see this. So what's happening here? This is the random subdivision mode. And because we don't know how many hits we're going to get each time, because it chooses a random number, then we can't set specific velocity values for each one. But what we can do is we can use this function here to set how the velocity will change over the selection of notes. And we can also, if we drag up and down in the middle, we can introduce a curve to that. Now what it's doing here, it's not only selecting a random number of subdivisions, but it's also muting some of them sometimes, right? We're not getting, if it gets a subdivision of 4, right, it's not just going to be like this, right? It could be that we only have one note actually, or it could be 2 of them playing, or all of them. So it's very random. I wanted to make this kind of as maximum randomness as possible with that. So sometimes it won't even play any notes, sometimes it will play some, maybe 1, whatever. Okay. So that's what we can do in this tab. If we go to the next one, then we can see that we can override what is the global note for that sequence, and we can change some of them around. So this is just like a normal num box, and so we can either click and drag, or we can click and then type in whichever number we want. So already just using one sequence, we can get quite a lot out of what we're doing. And the next thing I wanted to do was not only give each step its own pitch, but I wanted to give each subdivision its own pitch. And the way I chose to do that was through pitch offset. So here we can add a number to the pitch value up to 1 octave, up to 12. So whatever is set here, this is going to add to that. Now, I didn't want to just be limited to choosing within one octave, so of course we can also change the octave, so that could be 1 octave down. It could be up to 3 octaves up or down in each direction. So we can effectively, so here we can see, okay, there's a lot going on here. Because this is set to random, okay, let's change one of the other ones, right? So let's have like 3 here. So, okay. Now I already set this one, and that's only set for the first one because it only had 1 before. Now it has 3. So we can give each a different note. Oops. Don't like that hit. Okay. So each one can get, each subdivision gets its own separate thing. Okay. And here, because this one is set to random, then we don't know how many hits are going to be played there. So in that case, we get a choice for the entire maximum value of 16 hits, right? I keep hitting that note. I don't want it. Okay, so we can get something crazy going on here, right? Or maybe we don't. Maybe we want it to all be the same, right? Probably, if it's going to be like a drill or something like that, we maybe want the same notes. All right. So already we've got different notes coming in here. We've got different notes coming into each specific subdivision, right? We can also, as we said, like give different variations in the velocity values. And then, of course, because I like it so much, we can bring in some probability into those. So here we can see the probability of that whole step being played, right, including whatever it contains. Okay, so we can bring that down. And then not only, of course, did I want to have probability per step, right, but of course per subdivision. So the same thing applies here. So if this step does get played, then it goes through another choice in whether or not each of the subdivisions will play. So in this case, we can kind of bring that down. And I don't know, same thing here. These are only one note, so it doesn't really make a difference. We might as well just set it here. But if we have more subdivisions, we can do that. Let's bring this up. So we set up the notes, we set up the velocities, we set up the pitch per step, per subdivision, the octave per subdivision, the probability per step, and the probability per subdivision. So we can hear that we can get quite a lot of kind of chaos going on. But there is one thing extra we can do to give it more chaos, which I forgot to talk about at the beginning. Right here, to the left of the sequence, we have a nice little slider. And what I decided to do with this one was, sometimes with a sequencer you might have an option to change the order of playback. So generally you might get forward playback, left to right, and then reverse playback, right to left instead. Or you might get like a palindrome, so it goes forwards and then backwards and forwards and backwards. Instead, I chose to just add in a probability of, instead of playing the correct step, playing a random step, right? So if we put it up to the maximum, right, it's just going to play a random step every single time. Or we can just have a little bit, and then most of the time it's going to play through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But some of the time we see that it's glitching out and playing a different step, right? So it can be a little bit more coherent while still maintaining a little bit of randomness, a little bit of chaos going on, right? Now, I guess let's just bring in something else, just to, I don't know. I'm not sure what note this is set at, but let's try that. And then, anyway, let's bring that down. Okay. So we can see with the Fraktor sequencer, we can get some quite crazy sounds going on. We can get a lot of control. We can go very deep with the control. And we can also go very deep with the randomization and the variation we can give to the sound that's coming out of it. So I hope you have a lot of fun playing with this one, as much as I do. And if anybody makes something cool with this, I'll be very happy to hear about it. If you can send me an email. I always love to see my devices out in the wild.